What I want to do in this one, though, is I want to show you something that I think is really weird. And it was one of the first real suspects that they had in the case. So everybody knows what they're looking at right here. When you go through the chain of custody reports of evidence arriving at the ISP Forensic Lab there in Meridian, see these ISP Forensic Services, this is their little lab stamp. But these are actually receipts, evidence submission receipts, 11/16/22. This one, the first one they have listed here is for the K-bar sheath. And it can really tell you how their investigation was progressing here as you go through this. We go to the next receipt on November the 18th. And what they're submitting into evidence that they're saying that they received, look, you got 1.1, which is the swab of the front strap of the sheath. Then on 11/21, we've got more evidence that they're logging in. Then on 11/22, logs in these two. These are cigarette butts found of entryway stair next to where subject right foot was. These are not cigarette butts found in the King Road residence. These are cigarette butts that were found from a stakeout of Jose Cruz. Now, when we go back to this and we start looking at these cigarette butts, they were found on the bottom entryway stair next to where the subject's right foot was. Found in the right corner walkway where it meets the bottom stairs. They're talking about the same cigarette butts. 252 and 253 logged as lab items number 33 and 34. And they all belong to Jose Cruz. Now, why was Jose Cruz such a strong suspect?
Our friend Pav has been saying that the first suspect mentioned in the redacted ISP forensics report is actually Jose Anibal Cruz. Jose Cruz. These black boxes hide the names, but their width varies based on how long each name is. Since the black box for the first suspect never changes in width, and the cigarette evidence appears early on, in the fourth batch out of 22 total submissions, Pav concluded that the person law enforcement was primarily focused on at that stage must have been Jose Anibal Cruz. Jose Cruz. Nice try, Pav, but you're actually wrong on this one. Dang, you got over 20,000 views on that Jose theory you went hard on. Well, no matter how you spell Jose's name, in any variation, it doesn't match the length of the black box. We've also tested other possible suspects' names, and none of them fit either. The only name that matches perfectly is Jack DuCoeur's. Actually, I was trolling Olivia on TikTok a little bit to see if she might accidentally reveal something new. She ended up replying to me that Jack's whereabouts that night were none of my business, even though I never even asked her about where Jack was. Was she trying to tell me something? Then there was that moment when Steve seemed to question how Jack's DNA ended up at the crime scene in a significant way. Back then, I figured Steve was just trying to deflect attention from himself by throwing Jack under the bus. But what if he was actually telling the truth all along? And Jack's reaction when the police showed up just didn't seem natural. He looked visibly guilty sitting in that cop car. What really stood out was that he didn't seem concerned at all about Kaylee or Maddie's whereabouts or safety, even though at that point he wasn't supposed to have any idea that something had happened to them.